Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sportscast. This is episode 3. Hi,
Mhm.
episode 3 of the Sportscast. So we're going to go over the internationals, and we're also going to put in our all-time favorite 11s from our teams. So enjoy.
Yeah.
Say hi, lads.
Hi, YouTube.
Hi Facebook. So you're gonna get the all-time 11s from Man United, Liverpool, and Celtic.
And just know in advance that one of these things isn't like the other two, and that one is a proper team and two are shite.
Oh.
The Celtic team was good, but no.
Disrespect.
I've just went. I've went from since I was born, because otherwise it'd just be the Lisbon Lions team, and I didn't really see any of them play.
Aye, I've done the same. I've done the same thing. Like Bobby Charlton isn't in my team or George Best.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I've done the
Aye.
same. I couldn't put like Kenny Dalglish in that in this team. I didn't really see him play.
Right, so mine's from 1991 to onwards.
Mine's is for 1997.
Right.
Mine's 1996.
If you've not got Simon Donnelly in your Celtic team, I'm going to be furious.
I'm gonna be furious then.
I quite liked a bit of Simon Donnelly when he was pissing. I don't know what it was about him. It was just, for some reason, as a child, whenever he came on, I was like, Simon Donnelly. I don't know why. I used to sign him in all the old Championship Manager games, and like I used to like Champ Manager 1999. I just buy Simon Donnelly for Man United.
I think if we push hard enough, I think Simon Donnelly someday we could get in the show. I don't think his standards are incredibly
Did he
high.
even have good stats in the game?
Not really, no.
No, it's a game of stats.
I know. I had him up front with Andy Cole. It was weird.
What?
That could be our mission. Feel it now until next year. Try and get Simon Donnelly on.
I'm alright with it.
I'll hit him up.
I had went on a spend. I remember the one file I went on a spending spree. I got Alan Shearer and Zinedine Zidane and Simon Donnelly. It was really weird. The transfer policy was all over the place. I'd buy players that actually made my team better, and then just like one shitey one that I liked.
You need squad players.
For some reason, I was playing him in the first team. It was
He was that generation's Shawcross.
Hey,
Aye.
Shawcross was good though.
No, he wasn't.
Aye, he was.
No, he wasn't.
No, fuck you. And you're defending. Brian Shawcross.
The first fuck you of the show.
If Ryan Shawcross ever hears this, is like one of the most forgotten players that United have ever had, and he should have got a full chance because he was brilliant. Right? He was brilliant.
I think
He could have been the next Rio Ferdinand.
we could probably get in the show. I don't think he's up to much.
No.
Outside of it, he probably owns a pub. So we can get Ryan Shawcross on here to tell his story.
Ryan Shawcross could have been the next Rio Ferdinand, and he never get the proper chance.
I'm gonna jot these names down so I know who I'm.
Simon Donnelly.
Who we can get for the podcast.
If you get either of them, I will be sitting here loving life. I quite genuinely, I don't know what it was about Simon Donnelly. I don't know why. I gravitated to him for some reason. Same with John Hartson. I liked a bit of John Hartson.
Aye, Big Bad John. I liked him. He was a really good player, but he was very criminally underappreciated.
I'll give you that. He was underappreciated.
I don't mind him as a pundit either.
He's a bit. See, when you're listening to him, see from a Celtic point of view, he's just a cheerleader. Like, we can't do anything wrong in his view. Neil Lennon can do no wrong in his view. See, when Neil Lennon gets it wrong, he refuses to challenge it on that. He always wants to scutter round the hussies on different avenues and how it could be somebody else's fault or how Neil Lennon's right. And you're a bit.
Did they ever play in the same team?
Yes. Yeah,
so
that's
his pal then.
Aye, that's essentially what it is. It's kind of similar to what Rio Ferdinand and that going on with Ollie. It's essentially like their mate. But that's the good thing about Sutton. Like, Sutton shoots for the heat.
He does shoot from the hip, Sutton.
Aye, he aims for the head. Like, even with Lennon as well, he's turned into a bit of a cheerleader, and it turns a bit cringy. Like, I know it is I know it's like to put air quotes on it in case you've not got the video, your pal, but you need to be objective when you're in that position. Like, do you know what I mean? You're in a position to look at football objectively. You need to be objective. Like, I don't believe in just slamming managers or slamming players in the media when they don't necessarily deserve it. But to say they maybe got something wrong here and there, it's constructive criticism. It's how football should be built.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Like, if there's a reason for criticism, do it. Don't just be like, well, he's my friend, so I don't want him to lose his job.
aye, and I think something can go the other way with that as well. Like, see when he doesn't like somebody, he really doesn't like them. Like, see the way he went on about like Ronnie Dyler in the media, and the way he went on. Same with John Hartson actually, and the way they went on about who was that Rangers manager, Pedro Caixinha. Like, it was borderline bullying. Like, any time that man was on they would get him doing like his interview and that, and like Sutton would just always be like hyper aggressive towards him and try and get him to look like a fool on the telly, and you're a bit like take a step back and be objective again, like sort of idea, like kind of it's counterproductive.
You want to lead in with the dream teams then? Because there's not a lot of like actual football to cover in terms of games.
It's been quite quiet, like sports wise.
It's only the Scotland game, really.
Aye, which we'll go on to the Scotland game after the dream teams, I'd imagine.
Aye, that sounds about right.
Aye.
Who wants to kick us off then with these Dream 11s?
I don't mind.
Aye.
Where do you want to go?
Right, so this is my Dream 11 for Liverpool. And there's no surprise here. Since in my lifetime, our keepers have been awful. Blubbering idiots. No, like people seem to forget about Jersey Dudek. He was a really bad keeper who had a good game against, or a good shootout.
Aye, I feel that they forget he conceded 3 goals.
Yeah.
Aye, that's not. It was behind a really terrible defence though.
There's that one game in particular, but like to watch him against Aston Villa and all these other Premier League teams, he was shocking. Because whenever someone would pass the ball back to him, I used to get physically sick. Because I just knew he was going to do something stupid with it.
Right. Fair enough.
So, keeper is obviously Alisson. Right. Because even Pepe Reina, he was all right. But then he got the same way. Especially after the beach ball incident. Like, he just...
Aye.
It just felt worse and worse. Who was his backup? Was it Scott Carson as well? Scott Carson. And we had Simon Mignolet, who is a known imbecile. And then we had Karius. Enough said about him.
Gorgeous Karius.
To be fair, the man he's a 10. But it's just a shame he can't. Yeah, he's a model, not a footballer.
Hey, you had Chris Kirkland, he was alright.
He was alright. I'll give you that. Chris Kirkland was okay. But
Bogdan.
Oh my god. The Hungarian ginger ninja.
Aye, he was...
No, useless. My right back is obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold because, wow, what a right back. Way better than Adam Wan-Bissaka.
That's pish.
That's pish. That's pish.
Trent looks better than what he actually is because of the attacking football that Liverpool play. He gets lauded for lobbing all these crosses in and most of them miss. It's only because Liverpool play such high pressing football that he gets the opportunity to continually fling crosses that eventually will land.
He's underrated for his defending.
He can't tackle and he can't defend, and most of these crosses miss. The fact that he's lauded as being like your best right back proves how shite your team used to be. Put him in any put him in any other team that don't play the constant bombarding attacking football that Liverpool play. He wouldn't look anywhere near as good.
But that's the whole system.
Liverpool keep a lot of the ball and they constantly press. So eventually his crosses are going to find the target, but he misses way more than he lands.
Well, sir, I'll bring you back to 2018 where he pocketed CR7. There you go.
You get the better of an old man. He wouldn't do well in any other team that played a different style of football. Most of these shit misses. It's just because he's on the ball so fucking much it looks better.
So do you think Wan-Bissaka is better than Trent?
Better
Trent
defensively.
come outside and all that.
Better defensively, aye, much better. Wan-Bissaka can tackle. Trent can't tackle.
Can he? There's plenty of pictures of him on his arse.
He's still landing tackles. He's still a much better defensive fullback than Trent will ever be. That's a fact.
Look, Well, I'll make sure to edit in all the pictures of Aaron Wan-Bissaka backwards.
And at the same time, edit in clips of all the misses that Trent makes, all his stray, shitey crosses.
Oh no, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Be fair, at least. Be fair.
So, right centre back, I've gone for Sammy Hippier. I like to be a bit of Hippier.
I'll actually give you Hippier.
Aye.
I was torn between him and Carragher. I like Carragher more, but Hippier was the better defender.
Carragher's another one, isn't it?
And obviously his partner Virgil van Dijk.
Carragher was pish.
Carragher, well, no, he was good. He just had his moments.
Come on, be real.
You be real. You're the one that's going to be talking about a team from 20 years ago.
Aye, right.
Looking at his list.
Liverpool are better now, aye, but my team is for 20 years ago because Man United were a proper team year in, year out. Liverpool have won one league in your lifetime. So, of course, you're going to go with the current team because everything you grew up with was shite.
More recent than Man United.
You don't know who I've got here.
His partner's Van Dijk because obviously. The left back is Andy Robbo because left back's another real problem position for us. Fabio Aurelio might have been the most unfortunate or like the most purposeful, purposefully injured person ever. His last injury for us, and we were making a strive for top 4. And I remember he couldn't play for us because he trapped his pinky in a taxi door.
Oh.
But like that could have just been nonsense. So, and then we've had like Steve Finnan over there. Who else? Oh my God, Alberto Moreno. No wonder I forgot who he was. I completely took him out of my mind forever.
Bronson played there for a while, didn't he?
Yeah, he was all right there. And, John Flanagan as well.
Aye, I remember the John Flanagan out there. It's a shame he's shite now. And Bartlett.
He's really... I said, as soon as he left, because he's a Scouser, he's a Liverpool lad, I said, I don't think... If he isn't playing for us, I don't think he would be any good. Because he's got that kind of pride thing that goes on.
Aye.
And I'm playing a 4-3-3. So my defensive mid is Fabinho. It was between him and Mascherano. But, mate, just Fabinho's fantastic.
Nay, Gerrard. Is that not where he would play? Defensive mid?
No. This is like prime Gerrard. He would be a bit ahead.
Right.
I've actually got Gerrard ahead of him here in the more kind of attacking role.
Right.
And I've also got him partnered up with Xabi Alonso.
Oh, thank God. I thought Jordan Henderson was making it in front of Xabi Alonso. I start crying. Obviously I love Jordan Henderson, but I was just like, please make it Xabi Alonso's in that team. Please make it, because he's one of the best players I've ever seen. But
that might have been the most hurt I've ever been when a player's left. Xabi Alonso.
I can see that. He was brilliant.
He's one of the players that he gets under the radar because in that era of such great midfielders like Pirlo, Xavi, Iniesta, Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Zidane to an extent.
The kind of back end of Zidane.
Aye, so he kind of gets lost in that kind of conversation. Same with like Ashton Schweinsteiger. All these world class players just get lost, and you feel sad.
He was kind of lost in the Spain team as well. People forget when he played with Xavi and Iniesta, Spain played way better than they played with Fabregas.
Yeah,
in that midfield.
People forget that when they won the World Cup.
Aye, because he got smashed by De Jong, didn't he, in the final?
The flying big boot for
he went full Kane.
That was criminal, that flying teeth kick.
That was a yellow card.
It should have been a red card then.
How was that a yellow card?
He should have got carted off the pitch into the back of a prison van. Remember the wrestler Test back in the day? That was his finisher, the running big boot. That's what De Jong did. That was attempted murder.
But with studs.
With studs, Exactly. Much worse.
And my front three is Mo Salah on the right. I've got Mane on the left. And I've got Luis Suarez up top.
And Michael Owen?
No. I hate Michael Owen.
Ooh.
He played for Man United.
He was my favourite player of all time, and then he went to Man United.
Right, you can't
He
have
went to Newcastle first.
Did he not score the goal that won you the league?
I don't know if it won the league, but it was the added time extra goal against City.
Oh, the killer.
3-2.
Yeah.
I don't know if that won the league though, but it was the.
So I've got beef with him.
Aye, I'll give you that with Mike Owen.
And I've put Suarez in ahead of Torres because I think Suarez in that team would do more like kind of Firmino role. Because he tends to drop back as well.
I think it's that way as well. When Suarez was at Liverpool, he was arguably the best striker in the world. So,
oh yeah,
he was in the competition.
Aye.
I can see why you picked that team. Very modern.
Do you want to give us a quick recap of the team, Scott, just in case MD's forgot who was
Did
in
you
it?
get subs?
No, I've not got any subs.
I picked subs for
this team doesn't need subs.
Aye.
Oh.
I've got Alisson in net, Trent at right back, Hippier and Van Dijk in the middle, Andy Robbo on the left, Fabinho, Gerrard and Xabi Alonso in the midfield, and Salah, Suarez, Mane up the top.
It's a good team.
Aye. That is quite a good team.
Better than any Man United team.
Aye.
So what did you say there? I missed that. What did you say?
It would batter any Man United team, even with Van Nistelrooy.
That's the thing with you, like Liverpool fans, isn't it? You're so starved for success. Your wee team wins one league, and you're like, oh, you're now the best team that's ever lived. If you think they would beat that 99 treble team, you're just sick in the head.
Let's rewind for a second when the roles reversed and Blair said, "This is our year. This is our year."
And then went on and said, "No, seriously, Chelsea will win the league."
Aye.
Yes.
So I'll jump in just so we can break it up a wee bit. So it's that English team, Scottish team, English team.
Break up this rivalry between me and Blair.
Aye, so I like to see Blair last, just to hear the dissection of his team the way Scott got it. But
I'm not going to do that with my pick.
So mine's is like it's essentially my favourite Celtic team since 1997. So in nets we have the holy goalie, who Blair will remember very well, Mr. I'm trying to remember how you'd say his name because I get into trouble off my girlfriend for saying it wrong the other day. Because just for some background, my girlfriend's Polish, so whenever I pronounce a Polish person's name, it's usually wrong. So I get a bit of shit for it. Apparently, we've all been saying this wrong all our lives. It's Arthur Bosak.
I think she's fucking with you.
Bosak. That's how you Arthur Bosak. She says Bosak. I don't know if you just say all these things just to fuck with me, and I just believe.
I feel like you're being trolled. I think she's trolling you.
No, but she got it in Google Translate as well, and that's how it pronounced it.
Bosak
or something, or Arthur Bosak. I was just thinking Bosak in my head, so it's Arthur. It's down the lines. If at home, Google Translate it, and by the way, it'll blow your mind. So Arthur Bosak, and then at right back, I've got Mikael Lustig, who is one of my favourite players of all time. Great guy. And then at the back, it's funny because we usually talk about defenders that would like to kill you, and this man fits that mould. It's Bobo Baldi.
Oh, yes. Big Bobo Baldi.
Aye, and Deco could testify to that. And then at the other centre half, we've got Van Dijk, which he makes the team for what he's achieved out with Celtic, because now he's went on to be arguably the best defender in the world. So I feel it'd be quite harsh to keep him at that team when he's. He
was quite the goal scorer at Celtic, wasn't he?
Aye, like he was hitting those free kicks and all that, and his technical ability was fantastic. Sifi, so like set pieces, he was great. But because I think he hit one for Liverpool and scored as well, I'm sure.
Aye, because I remember him at Celtic, and I was thinking we need him. And when was he at Celtic? Like 2011, 2012?
I think he left in 2014.
Because we had an absolutely broken Daniel Agger and Martin Skirtle, and I'm like, we need this boy.
Aye, I know what you mean. I'm sure it was 2014 he left, because I'm trying to remember. So it was when we get put out of the Champions League by fucking Maribor.
I think it was because I think it was Southampton's first season in the Premier League.
Aye,
He was in.
because he was one of the first defenders I remember starting that trend that was really good with bringing the ball out for the back.
Aye.
But he just glided over the pitch. I see sometimes watching him, he was majestic. But I feel like, and I've always maintained this, when they were both at Celtic, I thought Jason Denier was better. I always thought Jason Denier was going to go into have the better career than Van Dijk, which didn't happen. But Jason Denier's no flopped. He's away and he's now captain in Lyon. So he's captaining like a massive, well-known club. So they've both done excellent. But my left back, and you will know who this is, it's the best left back in the world, and I'm not hearing any arguments against him.
Second best left back in the world.
He's the best. It's Mr. Kieran Tierney. It is the best left back in the world. There's no denying it.
I feel like Marjulo might have something to say about that. No?
I think Brandon Williams might have something to say about that.
I'm sure Luke Shaw's got an argument again.
No, I'm not that diligent. The best push.
He's better.
I'm not that loyal. I'm not that blindly loyal.
Not that loyal.
We've seen the transformation this boy's had with that Arsenal side. He's a winner. Winning mentality. Like Man United should have broke the bank to bring him in, but they didn't. In the middle, it's a player I think Blair will probably remember more. It's Paul Lambert.
Big Paul Lambert.
I remember.
I'll give you that. He was great.
Won the Champions League with Dortmund. He's great. He's one of the kind of underappreciated Scottish players.
Aye, definitely.
Aye,
definitely.
I think a lot of people forget about Paul Lambert.
Aye, especially in that Celtic team, because that Celtic team, it was like that. He was in it. Like he came in, I think it was '98. He came in because it was the year after he won the Champions League. So he was in it with like the likes when it grew on it. He was in it with Neil Lennon, John Hartson, Chris Sutton, Henrik Larsson, Bobo
Petrov.
Petrov as well. So it was like loads of like massive personalities. I think he kind of just got drowned out a wee bit, but no, he was superb.
He really was brilliant. He always put in a good shift for the national team as well.
Aye, his technical ability was so good. And then beside him, I've got this. This is the captain of my team. This is the leader of our ship. It's Mr. Scott Brown. No, I don't. That's not even. It's not even a joke. But Scott Brown, he's like the most decorated captain I can remember. He's led us to 9 league titles in a row, and he's been a massive part of it. And he looks to be the one that takes us to the 10. And honestly, I couldn't be more happy for him. My heart just loves the guy so much. He lives and breathes Celtic. I went for a 4-3-3 attacking. So that's like my 2 holding midfielders. And I had to kind of shoehorn players in kind of out of position. But in the hole behind the striker, I've got Chris Sutton.
Yeah.
I liked me a bit of Sutton. And then on the right, so like right midfield, I've got Nakamura. Purely because he's the best free kick taker to ever walk the face of the earth.
We've been over this.
We've covered this. It was Juninho.
Ask Edwin van der Sar.
He would probably still say Juninho.
No.
Ask any keeper in the French league.
Nakamura
Juninho.
in the French league.
Ask Buffon, Casillas, or Can, Dida, or Canizares.
Most of them would
say any of the great goalkeepers they will tell you it's probably Juninho.
Nakamura. You're right, they would say Nakamura. And then in the left, I've got Odsonne Edouard.
Right.
Oh, right.
I know he's more a striker, but I couldn't have a team and not have that guy in there. I was just something about him. He's got this kind of aura. See, for somebody so young, he's our highest ever signing, so he's like the most money we've ever spent on a player. So I feel it'd be rude not to have him in there, and he's only 21. So where this guy is going to go in football, he'll go to the very top, and I've got no fucking qualms about that at all. And then in the middle, it's arguably our best player ever. However, I think he's our second best player ever. It's the king, Henrik Larsson.
Ooh. Who do you put above him then, if he's your second?
Jimmy Jinky Johnston, but he played in like this like for the 60s.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Jimmy Johnson. He was just world class.
Right.
So
I've actually got a funny story about Henrik Larsson. My dad's a massive Rangers fan, and him and my mum were arguing one day over the phone, and I loved Henrik Larsson, and I wanted a Henrik Larsson top from JJB, and that's a blast from the past. And she was on the phone to him, and was like, he really wants this Henrik Larsson top, and he went mental. I was like, do not get him that, blah blah. So she went, fuck you, put the phone down on him, and bought me it. And here's me running around with it on, and he comes home from work and he sees it, and he just takes it off me and throws it straight in the fire.
It's funny, we have a running gag in this house. My partner always jokes that if we have a child, she's going to buy it a classic Liverpool tap with Gerrard on the back to annoy me. And I've told her, you can, if you want to waste the money, that's up to you, but I'm going to take it and shred it immediately. So I couldn't have that. That would be like an April Fool's Day thing. My potential future son running about in a Gerrard tap.
So to recap my team, it's R. Bosick,
the Bossack,
Mikael Lustig, Bobo Balde, Virgil van Dijk, Kieran Tierney, Paul Lambert and Scott Brown in the middle, Chris Sutton in behind the striker, and Nakamura, the King, and Eddie forming a front three.
So really, I'm the only cunt that's made subs. I've got 7 subs listed. That's fine, right. So obviously mine's a Man United team. And nobody for the last 5 or 7 years is in it. Because
no Fred?
No Fred, no Harry Maguire, no Wan-Bissaka, no Shaw, no De Gea, no Pogba, no, because some of them are alright, but if we're talking all time here, or at least in our lifetime, then they'll not fit to carry the shoes of anybody that's made this 11. And that's like a fact. I think anybody that watches football would agree with that. That's a fact. So my goalkeeper might be sort of controversial, and it's Van der Sar. And I think generically people just assume Schmeichel. But for me, Van der Sar was better. I thought it was much better because I remember, as I touched on the last show, in about 2004 time, we had Tim Howard and Roy Carroll in nets, and we're finishing third in trophy list. And if anybody has the compulsion to think De Gea is a bit overrated, go back and watch that program Premier League years and get a rundown of how Tim Howard and Roy Carroll used to play. They were the 2 worst fucking goalkeepers I've ever seen in my life. It's funny when the Liverpool fans complain about Karius. At least you never suffered through Roy Carroll. He was worse, I promise you. But then Van der Sar came in and everything changed. Man United went on to win 3 leagues in the bounce. Won the Champions League shortly after that. He saved the winning penalty against Anelka. It was beautiful. He broke the Premier League clean sheet record for most consecutive games without a drop in a goal. Beat Czech's record. I think it was Czech's record. Aye.
Can I just ask you a question quickly, Blair? See if David De Gea was in that team instead of Van der Sar, would he have made your list? If Van der Sar was in the team now and De Gea was in that team, like the kind of 08 team, who would have been the all-time list, do you think?
Probably Peter Schmeichel.
Because I think De Gea's, especially what he's done at Man United, I think winning the Player of the Year 4 out of 5 years or something, he won it.
Aye, and you know what, I like De Gea. I really do. I think he's great. But the fact that he's won the Player of the Year 4 times highlights how bad the rest of the players are. Whereas Van der Sar was a world beater, considered one of the best keepers in the world at the time, and was playing in the best team in the world at the time, or among the top 3 or 4. Because you forget that Man United team for 2007 to about 2010, they were in 3 Champions League finals and they only won one of them. Fair enough. But they get shagged for Barca the other 2 times, which is horrible. But still, they were there. 3 Champions League finals, 3 Premier Leagues on the bounce. They were one of the best teams on the planet.
No, they definitely were. They're one of the best teams at all time, that 08 team.
Aye, no, genuine
conversation along with that Galactico side, that AC Milan side as well, and that Barca.
Man United 99 team, so we've got 2 up there, I would say. But Van der Sar was a huge part of that. It was amazing. If for some reason Vidic and Ferdinand get the ball in with them, you weren't panicking because Van der Sar was amazing. You knew he had a chance of catching it. He was his reflexes were great. His positioning was great. He could come out, catch the ball and across. He didn't have a hole to his game. I didn't think. Whereas De Gea, you mentioned De Gea, he's got holes in his game. Van der Sar had none that I can remember.
He had one hole, and his name was Fernando Torres.
That's the same hole Vidic had as well.
Just fuck up.
Aye, it is actually.
Aye.
Torres tormented Vidic.
Aye, he tormented Vidic.
We cold spits for him.
Torres tormented Vidic, and then at the end of that season, Torres would go to bed a loser and a sore loser. And Vidic would wake up with Premier League winners' medals, Champions League winners' medals, and the knowledge that he could murder Torres if he wanted to. Yeah, you hang on to your own goal hither and thither, and I'll hang on to the success that we had. So
You really are holding on to that success. It's been 10 years.
It's all I've got. Have you seen them lately?
It's funny that United fans used to rip on Liverpool all the time. You only talk about history. What about the here and now? Well, Blair, what about the here and now?
Here and now, we're shite, aye. We're so blindly deluded that I can't accept the fact that you're better than we are now. But it will change again, eventually. But it always changes. You will fall again, eventually, because it's where you belong. And Man United will be back at the top, because it's where they belong.
Aye. It's United's turn for the 30 years of misery.
It'll not take 30 years.
Well, when you're spending 65 million on Fred, I think it might.
Fred was dearer than everybody in this team.
Fred is dearer than anyone on anyone's list.
You should have got a total spend of that team and compared it to Fred.
I should have. I'll go as I'll list the values as I go. Right, it's a fair enough. Van der Sar cost. How much did Van der Sar cost? I think he was 3.5 million.
Aye, it wasn't a lot because didn't he come from Fulham?
Fulham, aye, at the tender age of 34.
Right.
All right, so Van der Sar was less than 4 million.
I'll keep a track here, right?
Right. So we'll just round it up. We'll say 4 million, right? Van der Sar.
Right, 4 million.
Right. So at right back is the Right Honourable Sir Gareth Neville. The single best right back the Premier League has ever seen. We'll hear none of nobody's pish. Consistency, my boy. I know you're thinking about Trent and his crosses, but it's consistency is the key. Consistency, my son. Gary Neville won everything there was to win, and he played with some of the best players of all time, and he's still remembered fondly for that. So Gary Neville makes the team. And Martin made a comment in his Celtic lineup about defenders that try and kill you, and then listed Bally, which is accurate. So I've went for 2 of them in my defence. Now you would assume it's Vidic and Ferdinand, but you'd be wrong. My all-time dream centre-back pairing is Vidic and Jaap Stam.
Oh.
Can you imagine coming up against that?
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
I'll Jaap Stam, because I always thought Ferdinand was hugely overrated.
I wouldn't say he was overrated, but Stam was better.
I think he was labelled as one of the best centre-halves in the world at that point, and it's like, it's easy to look good when you play next to Vidic and John Terry for the national squad.
He was better than John Terry.
Oh, no.
Oh, aye.
Oh, no.
Ferdinand was better than John Terry by far.
No, he's not.
Aye, he was.
Nowhere near it.
He wasn't as good as Vidic, you're right about that, but he was better than John Terry.
Oh, no.
I think he was better than
Move
John
on.
Terry.
Move on.
We've got a few centre-backs that were better than John Terry. You've got Wes Brown, who was the rich man's John Terry.
Wes Brown was not better than John Terry.
Wes Brown was definitely better than John Terry.
No,
He did in way more a shift.
No,
so was John Terry.
No, come on. We're being foolish now.
John Terry was average as a centre-back. He had passion for Chelsea, but he was average.
If even average.
You can't say I put someone as the best right back in the world because they were consistent year in, year out, and they won.
John Terry was never consistent.
Yes, he was.
He was shite. He missed more tackles than he made.
No.
John Terry missed way more tackles than he made.
We'll move on.
Like, I love Jordan Henderson, but like he's not a skillful boy, and he turned John Terry into spaghetti.
How old was John Terry at this point?
How old was Paolo Maldini and he
31.
wasn't getting into spaghetti?
Oh, John O'Shea's not better than John Terry.
No, it probably isn't. I'm taking the piss there, but Ferdinand there will probably be a stat somewhere that Terry missed more fucking tackles than he ever won. He was not that great.
Aye. Ferdinand was like the last generation's Van Dijk. They had the similar style.
Oh, you're paining me.
He was also better than what Van Dijk was.
No, he wasn't.
No, have that.
No, he wasn't.
He was better than everybody in this conversation that we've had. So,
who, Ferdinand?
No,
that's a difficult one. He might be a great defender, but is he a good footballer? Like with your
he was a
your
centre
partnership of Yapstam and Vidic, you're not worried about tackles. You're worried about fists.
back. But that's the sort of player you want at your back line. Defenders are too soft now. You talk about Van Dijk, he likes to bring the ball out. That's all fine, well and good, but I prefer my centre backs to be the last line of defence like they're supposed to be.
But
And hell mend anybody tries to take the
it's
ball in.
happy as well. Football's evolved. Like, football's evolved.
Maybe so, but defenders are still supposed to defend.
And if you're, bear with me a minute, I'm going to hike back to John Terry. If we're going to slag John Terry for getting dumped to spaghetti, and it wouldn't happen to any other player, what did Torres do to Vidic?
I never said it wouldn't happen to any other player. I said Terry missed more challenges than he ever won.
Then we were going on about him getting turned into spaghetti after Jordan Henderson. But that was a
That was
bad time.
Scott that said that. That was Scott that said that, not me.
Nah.
I admitted that Torres got the better of Vidic quite often because he did. But John Terry was still a bang average defender at best.
He wasn't, but we'll move on.
Same as, what do you call him, David Luiz. He's a centre-back that can't tackle.
Aye, but David
and you-
and John Terry, they're completely, it's like worlds apart.
Aye, but they're similar in that none of them were great tacklers for supposed centre-backs. I know you're saying football's evolved and everything else, but defenders should still be able to defend, and John Terry was never great.
Very good. That's how he's highly regarded as one of the best centre-backs ever to grace the Premier League, which is a fact by most professionals and everyone that watches the game.
I don't know about everybody that watches the game. Most of the folk I know don't rate him. The pundits rate him.
I've never heard anyone bar used to disregard John Terry.
You're not looking hard enough.
And I'm not a fan of John Terry. I don't like the man, and I don't like Chelsea either, but I seen one of the best defenders to ever grace the Premier League, and it was John Terry. He was fantastic.
No one's saying he's a bad centre-back, but
he's just never rated.
I don't think he's one of the best centre-backs to ever grace the league.
No, I don't either. I really don't.
Who's better than...
Vidic
Who's better than John Terry?
Vidic, I'll maybe give you Vidic, aye.
Vidic and Stam for a start.
Martin, you're a better defender than John Terry.
Who else? Colin Hendry when he played for Blackburn. Way better than John Terry. Much better tackler. I know you're making that face, but way better tackler. That's a fucking fact.
Right.
Fabio Cannavaro is better than John Terry.
Colin Hendry when he was in his prime, but he was a way better tackler than John Terry.
We'll move on.
Cannavaro's better.
He never played in the Premier League.
I know.
Still better.
But Cannavaro's like the best centre half ever.
What was his name? The Portuguese guy, the Portuguese one who was with Terry. What was Carvalho? That's who I meant.
No, I don't know about Carvalho.
He was.
I might have went with Terry over Carvalho.
He was very good though. That Carvalho, I'll give you him. He was good in that.
Ronnie Johnson, that used to play for Man United, he was better than John Terry. The big Norwegian fellow.
Who else is in your team?
Joe Gomez.
Are we moving on now? Right, so Vidic and Stam. My left back is Dennis Irwin, and nae harm to Patrice Evra. He's the second best left back Man United ever had, but Dennis Irwin is the best. And
no
again,
no Fabio.
No Fabio, no. Nae Mikel Silvestre either, who I always had a really soft spot for. But if we're talking talent, Dennis Irwin's the best. He's probably the best fullback we ever had. Never mind just left back, to be fair. And maybe some folk that I watch football now are too young to remember him, but he could do everything. He could the perfect blend in a fullback because he could attack and cross and take set pieces. He was great at all that, but he could track back and he could defend. Which, in case anybody's noticed, is a big thing for me in defenders. I like them to be able to defend.
He's another one of those kind of forgotten players.
Dennis
No one
Irwin,
speaks about him.
way too forgotten. It's a shame because Patrice Evra made such a big impact and everybody focuses on him. And he made the bench, by the way, Evra did. So did Ferdinand. They were on the bench here. Although now I'm thinking about it, maybe take Ferdinand off the bench for Ronnie Johnson. Because now that I'm remembering Ronnie Johnson, he was better. And he's another one that just goes forgotten. That's the problem with this lineup and that Man United side for the mid-90s to the late 2000s. They had so many great players that you forget about these other folk that played for them, which is kind of sad. So Irwin at left back, I've went for a 4-4-2, traditional United play. And my midfield is as basic a midfield as you're ever going to get. You could probably guess. He's about to take a guess. I mean, the full midfield, the full four. Take a guess. You should be able to get it. It's the most basic bitch Man United midfield that has ever lived.
Giggs. Keane. Scholes. Beckham. Aye.
I went full 90s midfield. Because
Blake got vanilla on us.
I went full vanilla because I don't think you could name a better midfield four in the Premier League era than that midfield four.
No, that's a good 4, to be fair.
You look at how they've worked together, the amount that they won, and the consistency that each of the 4 of them brought to the game. I mean, if somebody wants to try and name a better Premier League era midfield four, I'd be happy to hear it, but I can't think of one. And
See, it's weird.
biased.
People seem to forget how good Beckham was because, like, he's
Aye.
this, like, what would you even call it? It's more than a footballer. He's like an icon now
He was a
in
brand.
like pop
isn't he?
culture.
He
Aye.
was a brand. Aye.
So like people forget how actually really good at football he was.
I had this same conversation with one of my pals a few weeks ago. He was like, I never rated Beckham that highly. I think you're remembering him wrong. Because all the like celebrity shite that goes with him, but Beckham on the ball was fucking world class. His passes, his crossing. He's remembered mostly just for free kicks and all, but his range of passing was dynamite. He could pick a pass from
There's a
anywhere.
pass he did for Madrid. I think he passed it to R9 Ronaldo, and it was in his own half, and the ball curved like that all the way, and it got perfectly to his foot, and he scored. It was beautiful.
I think that is proof of how good he actually was. Madrid signed him in 2003, and he walked straight into the first 11 of that Galacticos side that had Figo, Raul, proper Ronaldo, Zidane, even Higuera, and the like, those sorts of guys. He was a first team player in that world class team. He walked straight into the starting 11, week in, week out, and stayed there till he went to AC Milan. So that's proof that Beckham was better than some people maybe remember him for. But that is a basic vanilla 90s bitch boy midfield. But it's the bit I couldn't. Who else do you pick that played for Man United in our lifetime and put them in that midfield? Ronaldo.
Morgan
did
Schneiderlin.
Fred.
Fred, aye.
But Ronaldo did most of his best work at Madrid, so he
Aye.
doesn't make the cut. And I went again, sort of similar up front. My forward two is Van Nistelrooy and Andy Cole.
Oh.
Andy Cole's still the second highest goal scorer in the Premier League history, still. And Van Nistelrooy is, I think he's in the top 5 or 6. I don't
Does
remember.
Rooney make your bench?
No, Solskjaer made the bench.
Over Rooney.
Aye, I know Rooney's the better player and everything else, but like Solskjaer was right. It's funny, right? It's hard to break down because Rooney's a record goal scorer, right? So you'd think he was the better player. He's a better player than Solskjaer, but he wasn't a better finisher, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Rooney got way more game time than Ole ever did. If Ole had been a regular starter, his goal tally would be higher. And he still scored over 100 goals, predominantly coming off the bench in the last.
Yeah, he was super sub.
Super sub. If you gave Ole the ball in or around the box, is going to be a goal. That's just
He would used to come on in like last 15, last 10.
Last
score.
20 minutes, he would come on and score. He scored over 100 career goals, and they were virtually all off the bench. Now, obviously, Rooney's the more complete football player. But I never liked him. I thought he was a fat wee wanker. And I loved Solskjaer, who was a more clinical finisher in or around the area. And if you get Rooney's sort of game time, his goal tally would be higher. But my bench, in case you're interested, was Peter Schmeichel, Ronnie Johnson, Evra, my mainstay, Darren Fletcher, who I couldn't, in all consciousness, put ahead of Keane's goals. Even though I love Fletcher, I couldn't make that happen. Ronaldo, just because he was great in Solskjaer.
It's a good team.
Aye. Would that we had these lots of players in this current age, but we don't.
No, I'm quite happy where you're at.
I know.
So now that our all-time favourite 11s are done, you want to talk about the Scotland game?
Sure. We're one game away from qualifying for a tournament. That's exciting.
This should be the second time in my lifetime that we've qualified for a main tournament. I was 1 when we last qualified, now we're 90 minutes away.
It's quite exciting.
That's a real positive way to look at it, but I watched the game and they were awful.
Oh, they'll no win.
They were
I don't expect them to qualify.
horrendously bad.
Aye.
Like,
I don't expect
no
them to
disrespect to Israel or anything, but come on, it's Israel.
To be fair to Israel, they do have a few good players in that side.
Yeah.
That boy De Boer that played for Red Bull Salzburg. He's a great player. I've seen him many a times.
And Abu Fani came on as well. He's a decent player.
Mm-hmm.
Near Beaton for Celtic, he looked solid.
Only that, but Scotland are always shite.
Hatem El Mohamed, he did a solid game at left wing back, even though he's a right back. right back or a centre back, which I find a bit strange. And I think that's Neil Lennon. If you're listening to this, please do not play him in left wing back. I know you think all your prayers are answered, but keep him where he is, because I know he's when you keep moving people out of position. And also, never play Callum McGregor at left back again. I know I've not had a chance to speak to you since we get beat off Cluj last year. That really hurt me.
Right.
Aye, so a lot of it, but that, like, I know we were touching on Andy Robertson earlier, and it's like any time he puts a Scotland jersey on, he shrinks.
Aye.
I feel he gets showed up a bit, and that boy at right wing back for them, he tore him a new arsehole all game. Like every game every time he get near that line, he was getting down and he was beating Andy Robertson. And it's like that man's supposed to be our captain.
That's why I've got no faith that they'll beat Serbia.
He shows nothing. He shows nothing as a captain. It's like I'm going to take away from his ability here because he's clearly a good player. He plays for one of the best sides in the world. But when he puts that Scotland jersey on, he shrinks. And he's supposed to be your captain. He's supposed to be the one that stands up and be counted.
Well, to be fair, he is playing a lot like further up the pitch for Scotland for some reason.
He plays as a kind of wing back, but even at that game,
it's like a high wing back.
That game, he didn't seem to really get out his own half. Let's see the first half, he didn't really move up that wing. But I'd made a joke to my pals. I was like, we should bring Andy Robertson on.
Or you put it in our group chat.
Aye.
That's why I have faith that we'll beat Serbia, because Scotland always has individual not great, but good players. If you look at our 11, it's not a list of shite names. But for whatever reason, they are grouped together with the Scotland tap on, and it falls to bits. It was the same way like Darren Fletcher. It was great for Man United. Never really played amazingly for Scotland that I can remember off the top of my head. I don't know what it was putting that tap on.
I think he was consistently all right. I don't think he played short.
He was consistently all right, but he didn't show some of the heights he showed when he was playing for United.
But I think it's about other players round about you. Like, see when you've got the likes, see when you're pinging a ball into like Mo Salah, Bobby Firmino, Sadio Mane, it's a lot different to trying to chip balls into Ollie McBurney. who, by the way, should not be kicking a ball for Scotland again. I don't know why they spent 20 million on that man, because he's gash. And any time I've seen him put a Scotland tap on, he just gets worse and worse. Like, every time I see him, it's like you couldn't score out, like you couldn't get a goal in a barrel of fannies. No, that's the wrong man. It's like you couldn't score in a brothel. Like, seriously, you just look shocking and you don't look like you want to be there. And I've heard a lot of things in the media. I feel like James McFadden he's getting stick because of his accent, because he's English, and it's got nothing to do with the fact he's English. It's to do with the fact he's pish. Leading the line for Scotland, because you see that boy Lyndon Dykes. I've watched him plenty of times at Livingston, and the boys see his technical ability. He's about as technical as a typewriter. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, his technical ability, it's not there, but he's a grafter. Like,
that can make up for it, can't it? If somebody maybe not technically the best, but they work really fucking hard. A good utility player. I appreciate something like that.
And it was the tactics that we'd employed. It was like just hoof it up the park at every.
I've criticised the manager a few times for his tactical selections. What do you call him again?
Steve Clark.
He's shite. I've said it before. I'll say it again. His tactics are crap. He plays everybody out of position for some reason.
McTominay's at the back. I'm looking at the team now.
We can criticise his decisions, but it got his tactics, but it got us through.
The play. Oh, aye, it did.
Wow,
it was
0-0.
It was something done.
It's a coin toss for the penalty shootout, and he's playing quite attacking. He's got 3 at the back. But he's got these wing backs who are putting balls in to, like you say, to McBurney and Dykes, and McGinn, who's 5'6".
McGinn's another one. Like, he struts about that pitch like he's fucking Zidane.
He got man of the match for some reason.
Like, get a grip, you little fat gimp. You're no Zidane. Stop trying to play those intricate passes all the time and stop trying to shoot for 40 yards. Like, serious. I'm kind of being serious with him now. Like, fuck off, John McGinn. You're a decent player, but you're nowhere near as good as you're hyped up to be. And every time I see him put that Scotland jersey on, Callum McGregor shows him up. But Callum McGregor was our only midfielder that game that I thought he looks good. I don't know what Ryan Jack's role in the team is. I'm not just saying this because he's a Rangers player, but I kept forgetting. I actually didn't realise he'd been subbed. I think I'd looked at my phone or something when he was coming off, and then I didn't realise that he'd been subbed.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what I'm talking about. You're just saying that we're 90 minutes away from qualifying for a major tournament, and all I can think is, but we're not going to. We're just never any good. We're not in these tournaments for a reason. We're no good. I've got no faith in the national team.
What's funny is the reason we don't make these big tournaments is because we can never beat the teams we're supposed to beat. Whatever part of Scotland's like kind of philosophy is, we always beat the bigger teams. I remember us beating France home and away and losing
I know,
shite to the group.
2006. I remember that.
Aye, after 3 months after they won the World Cup, we beat them 1-0. We Gary Cole scored, and then James McFadden scored in the return leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I
remember the McFadden goal. I can remember really well.
I remember the Caldwell goal because I was quite a big fan of Gary Caldwell when he played for Celtic. I thought it was brilliant.
I liked a bit of Gary Caldwell back in the day.
Aye, he would have murdered you. But no, like, I've wrote our team down in paper. Like, I've wrote the team that I think you'll go with against Serbia. And see when I hear everybody writing us off the way they did, because they look at Serbia's team and they go, oh, they've got Mitrovic up front and they've got Milosevic Savic in the middle. But Serbia also don't really qualify for many tournaments. I know.
No, Serbia aren't they great? I'm not saying we're not going to qualify because Serbia are a scary opposition. I'm saying I have long since lost my faith in the national team. Being the elder one out the 3 years, I've been disappointed by them way more than either of you two. I'm sick of it. I didn't even watch that game because I had to pay, because I don't have Sky permanently. I have to pay a tenner to get the Sky Pass. And I thought, I'm going to pay this. And I'm going to just be disappointed by Scotland again. And I can't bring myself with it. And I'm still glad, even though they won on penalties. And I watched the highlights of the game and they were shite. We're just not a good football team. I've long since stopped deluding myself that we might make it because I don't think.
We looked at our bet, which I think it's quite important to remember with the game the other night that we lost a couple of key players. Let's see to do with the whole COVID stuff. We lost Kieran Tierney. Fair play, he was replaced by I think it was Declan Gallagher. Because I think Liam Cooper would have played anyway. But
Armstrong and who was the other one again?
Ryan Christie, which is quite important because Christie is our best ball driver. But he's best with his feet, and I
agree with you. Did all three of them not play a month ago against Israel in the Nations League, and we still didn't beat them in the open pitch? It was a 1-1 draw. We were still played after.
I don't think Stuart Armstrong played because
he came off the bench. I'm sure he was involved in some capacity.
But even at that game, we looked slightly better.
You think?
But even at that game, we played one up top. We played Lyndon Dykes up top himself, who put in a real good shift. But I think, and I'd heard someone on Twitter say this, and I was like, that is a really good point because Lyndon Dykes, I watched him quite closely because I've always been very critical of him. See what, because Rangers and Celtic were both kind of linked with him in the summer, and I was always dead against it because I'd seen him play. I'd only ever seen him play well twice, and funny enough, that was both against Celtic. But no, he was winning every ball that was put up the park. He was winning every knockdown. It was just a shame he had Ollie McBurney up top with him. See if he had someone like Lee Griffiths, I would have made. I think potentially that would have made all the difference. Because I wrote our team down in paper, like the team that I think you'll go with, and against Serbia, and I've heard folks say this is one of our worst teams of all time, and I think they're talking utter shite because you've got David Marshall in nets, who I don't think he's our best keeper. I think that boy John McLaughlin's maybe better, and then you've got Andy Robertson. I think he'll play at left wing back. You've got Kieran Tierney, McSauce, and McKenna as a back three. You've got that boy Stephen O'Donnell, who I'll admit I'm wrong because I always wanted Celtic to sign him, but he's shite. Because I used to watch him at Kelly, and they used to go, "Oh, he's all right," because I didn't watch him week in, week out. And every time I've watched him for Scotland, it's like, "Oh no." And then I think he'll go McGinn and McGregor in the middle with Christie in front of him, because Christie will drive. He'll at least drive at defences. I think he'll play Dykes and Griffiths up top. So when you hear that team on paper, it's like, why do we not have a chance? Like, I think that it's.
I know what you mean, right? I know exactly what you mean. I know where you're coming from and what your intentions there are. We've got a chance. Well, obviously, we've got a chance. It's a 50-50, isn't it? We might win. But I still don't think they will. And it's near him to that lineup. But Scotland have failed with better lineups than that. You know what I mean? We brought better lineups to weaker opposition in these positions before and still never get the job done.
But
we brought out teams with Craig Gordon and James McFadden and Kenny Miller and Alan Fletcher and all these other great players for that sort of era and still never get the job done.
But it's that way as well. What you listen, that's a couple of like players that are playing at high, like quite a high level. Like I know, like Kenny Miller, he was doing it Wolves for a while, but he did play for a good Rangers side and he played for a good Celtic side as well. But see this, you've got Andy Robertson that plays for one of the best teams in the world. You've got Kieran Tierney that plays for Arsenal. You've got McSauce at Man United. You've got McGinn, who's highly rated to be a £50 million player. He plays in the English Premier League. You've got Callum McGregor, Ryan Christie as well in that middle. So see when you look at the team and you break it down, it's full of top quality.
Aye.
But there's holes though, is the issue.
That's what I mean. They had teams in the 90s that were better than that and they all played in the Premier League. You know what I mean? And
but that's when they were qualifying.
Aye, at the tail end, I mean, just after that that tournament on, there's still full of players playing in the Premier League, and it didn't matter. You know what I mean?
There was better players in the mid-2000s for Scotland, and they still didn't make it.
In that they sort of mid-2000s, I used to get excited for tournament season with Scotland, because then you would look at the team they would pick, you'd be like, right, these are good players. Every one of these players is good players. They should. There's no conceivable reason why we don't have a chance. And then they just get fucked every single time, and I'm so fed up it. I can't even bring myself to get excited about the fact that we're playing in this game with Serbia, and it's not because it's Serbia. Serbia are shite, you know what I mean? But it's just you can only be let down so many times before you stop fucking caring. You know what I mean? I think I've got to that point. I know that's depressing.
I get what you mean.
I can't help it. Every time for the World Cup or for Euro, I'm like, right, I get the kit, I get the wee flag. When we were abroad, we used to go and watch them in Spain a lot at the Scottish bars in Spain, and they'd get shagged every game, and then we're just walking about all sad with flags on. Like, I can't take much more of this, so I've just not get hyped. I can't. I don't think we'll win because it's Scotland and we're jinxed for some reason. We're bad at football, and you're right. Like individually, they're all great players playing for big sides. But it's like what you said about Robertson. They put on the blue jersey for Scotland, and like a pair of them dies, and the player you're getting in the pitch isn't the player you should be getting in the pitch. So I don't think it matters.
It might be because they play for big clubs, and like you say, like Robertson's playing with Salah and Mane, and then he has to work with Ollie McBurney.
I think it's that way as well. See the attitude of the fans. I think that plays a big part. Like there's no patriotism. There's no reason folks should want to play for Scotland. See when you look at like teams like the Republic of Ireland, see when they were doing really well, they'd have big backing for the fans. Like see when you look at these, like your teams like Serbia, your teams like Bosnia, your Hungarians, they're all massively backed by the fans. Whereas here we've got an attitude that I don't care. Like there's people that don't like Scotland. Like folk would rather support Ireland or folk would rather support England. And you're like, why? You were born in Scotland.
Maybe they're fed up.
And I don't.
Well, a lot of that is because of the hair.
That's not.
It hurts,
It's 22 years of hair.
That's football. Like,
aye, but you can only it's like sadomasochistic at this point. You can only it's the definition of insanity. Getting excited for the prospect of Scotland trying to win when you know they're not going to.
What we talk about players not caring. Why should players care if fans don't? And this isn't a recent
years of pain.
This isn't a recent thing.
It just gets depressing eventually.
It's not a recent thing that folk don't support Scotland. It's been going on for years and years.
Oh well, it's only just happened to me then. I've only just started to stop and caring.
Aye, but I'm not. This conversation's not aimed at you. This is there's plenty of people here in Scotland that rather support Ireland. There's plenty of folk that rather support England.
Don't matter. I want Scotland to win. Don't think they will. I think maybe
like
that's
when fans were allowed in the stadiums, like there were plenty of fans at Hampden, like all those years. But like, I don't think it's them not supporting. I think it's more of them being kind of realistic with themselves because they
jaded.
know about the hurt.
I think it's the jaded. I
Yeah,
think
That's
they'll
think
still
that's what-
go and support their team, but at the same time, they're not surprised when they get beat by Azerbaijan.
but
it's that as well. It's not the fact that Scotland get beat all the time. It's the people that beat us. It's always the Faroe Islands and stupid shit like that. With part-time greengrocers and fishmongers as the players. The manager's a fucking dentist 6 days out the week. And they're taking these players that play in the Premier League and they get fucked by them. I'm so fed up it.
It's like being a Sunderland fan or something.
So what if? But that's the thing. If Scotland qualify, will have they start to support them again?
No, I won't, because I will watch them. I will watch them, and I did. Don't get me confused. I don't know support them. There's no point in getting excited because you know it's not going to end well. For me, at least, I'll be happy if they qualify. I'm going to watch the game with Serbia. I'll watch Euro regardless of whether Scotland is in it or not. But even if you get there, it's like, right, how far can this realistic? It's not even going to be fun to watch. I don't think if they get in, and I know that's sad, and I don't want to be jaded. But you know, if somehow they get by Serbia, we're going to get passed about the group that we're in like a tin of biscuits. You don't know where we're going to get pumped because we're ranked so low. We're going to get put into a team with Germany or something, a group with Germany or Spain because of our ranking, and it's just not even going to be fun to watch. We're going to get shagged for 90 minutes and sent home. Just like the last World Cup we were in, by the way, we got drawn into a group with Brazil. I don't know if anybody remembers that because they were terribly low standing in the world and we get pumped. It can be the same again. I don't like watching my team get shagged every time they take the
Did you
pitch.
not beat Brazil in that group?
No.
Was it
We
not the
scored
other
against-
teams that beat us?
We scored against Brazil, but they didn't beat them. We get drawn in with Brazil, Norway, and Morocco, and we get bet by all three of them, I think.
What
Unless I'm remembering that wrong. But
Because I remember somebody talking to me about it. I don't know if they were talking shite.
we scored. I don't think we won.
But then you have to look at the attitude as well, because Blair, you were talking in another podcast about how people were celebrating that United got third, and like to lower the bar of expectations so low, I think that's affected Scotland as well, because everyone doesn't even think, well, we'll give a good go at it at the qualifiers, but we'll not get in. And then the achievement to actually be there,
it's dampened.
Realistically, that's not a good target. You should target to be one of the better teams.
It's even in the commentary. They're like, oh, can the impossible dream be realised? The biggest game in a decade. You're like, right, we get it. We know for shitty. It's an impossible dream at this point to try and qualify for something.
But a lot of the things that happen with the national side, it's a kind of knock-on effect to how this country's essentially is run, especially in a sports capacity. Because see, like, especially now, see when you look at most sports pitches, they're overgrown. They're overgrown and full of dug shite. So Wayne's aren't getting... It's kind of being serious. Like, Wayne's aren't able to get out and kind of... This is a wee bit off tangent a wee bit, but this... Like, kids nowadays, they can't really go out and play football. They need
I agree with you.
They need to pay £50, £60 to use an AstroTurf. Sort of thing. So the chances are getting taken away for kids. Like, every wee slap of grass is a no ball game sign as well, and it's becoming a bit.
We could do a whole separate rant about how piss poor the country is run for the growing up. But there's nothing to do with football.
I think
that. But in terms of the football, though, like in the summer, like down in Ayr, they've got the football nets up, but in the summer they take them down.
Aye, they do the same here in Dumbarton. They take the football nets down, and it's like the time when young folk would be using them, and see when you watch. I used to go to a lot of junior, like youth football, and see. I was at a tournament down in England, and see the way theirs is run compared to up here. It's night and day. Because I was listening, because her brother he played for a team called Renton, who were pretty good. So they used to get invited to all these tournaments. And I was watching his team play, but I couldn't help but overhear the team behind us, and it was like kids about 10 years old, and the coaches were shouting and swearing at them. Like, do you know what I mean? Just the way it was getting run, and you're like, this is not appealing to kids. Like,
no, I can definitely see that.
Oh yeah,
and it's set like kids, they're not drilled to play football. It's drilled like, Tony, get it, fuck. but just put the ball away. They're not being trained to be football players.
Aye.
They're not being trained to kind of enjoy having the
No,
ball.
the technical ability in it's really different because I was playing football here when I was younger, and then I moved to Spain, and it was a completely different kettle of fish.
Aye,
Aye.
It really was. The football nets were up 24/7. You could play. They would put the fog lights up, and they would teach you the technical ability. So it was more passing drills, more
Right.
running drills, rather than let's sit back and defend and try and nick a goal.
That's massively different. It's good you bring that up. Anytime you take a trip to the continent, Europe, I mean, they take their fitness so much more seriously than anybody in Britain does.
Mhm.
Like, I remember there was this map I seen on the internet months ago, and it was like, one of them like joke maps. It was like every red dot is a pub type thing. It
Yeah.
was that only every red dot represented a football pitch, be it real grass or AstroTurf. And there was all these wide gaping holes in the map that was Britain. In the continent, Europe, the whole fucking thing was rid. You couldn't get moving.
Aye.
On this being everything was pitches.
No,
That's all they cared about.
that's exactly it. It's like
The different attitude to football than what we do. The Italians, the Spanish, the Germans run it like it's a fucking war machine.
and it's that way as well. It's a cultural mentality. Is
Aye.
like here.
It's more part of their culture than it is West.
Let's see what over there. They're a lot more kind of healthy than we are here. Like if that makes sense. Like over here, how many players did you see at school that were playing at a decent level and fucked it because they wanted to go out drinking and taking gear with their pals?
Literally every one of them.
Quite a lot.
Because
anyone I ever knew was like that.
I had folk that I know that were playing. One of the boys I know, he was playing over in America. He got a scholarship and get kicked out because he was smoking weed. It was boys that were getting gone away with Celtic and getting sent home because they were drinking bottles of Mad Dog earlier when they were in Dubai.
Scotland has a different culture for Europe, definitely.
Aye.
Which I think is funny when you go to Glasgow, which is a city I hate with every fibre of my being. I think it's the worst place in the world.
I'm right there with you. I can't stand it.
I hate it. It is. I used to work up there. It's the worst fucking place in the world that I've ever been. But that's a separate rant anyway. And they're always trying to push it as this fucking like European city, a culture with outside wee cafes like in France. That's not going to fly here, but no like that. Where culture is different. For all the wrong ways, it's not that our culture is better. Our culture is worse. The binge drinking, the partying, the habitual drug use. I don't like this can none to do with football, but it just reminds me I don't even drink anymore because of the job I used to be in. I was in security, as you can, and it just pissed me off. I had no idea how bad air was at the weekend because I never used to go out to get the job in the doors, and it freaked me out how horrible everybody is at the weekend here, and I had no idea. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the continent. Obviously, that happens in the continent, but it's no part of their culture. They have a different attitude towards it.
It's mostly Brits abroad.
It's Brits abroad, aye. You go to Spain and it's being wrecked by drunken hooligans. It's mostly Brits. The Italians, for example, they drink. They do nothing but drink in Italy. There's wine every day, but it's part of their like day-to-day thing. It's how they're social. It never gets.
I think it's still kind of classed as a binge, but it's not like the same.
Aye. It doesn't
Whereas like here it's like tequila and Jaeger and you go crazy for it. Whereas over there it's like a glass of wine and then you have a coffee before you go to bed or whatever.
Aye, when we went to Italy when I was quite young, my mum's pal married an Italian, so we went over to visit them, and he was drinking wine with his breakfast and then driving, like he was driving us about the sites, and nobody like batted an eyelid because it was just how they operate, I guess. It was never like they were never drunk, but they were drinking wine. You know what I mean? It wasn't to excess. It was just what they did. They smoke all the day, which I think is quite weird. Not weird, but you know what I mean? It's like they don't consider cigarettes the way we do.
No, yeah.
Like, oh, don't touch that. It's horrible. They just smoke them. But that attitude is, I'm talking about that because that trickles down into the fit. But as you say, folk ruining what could be potentially careers because they can't lay off the bucky or the dog.
That's exactly it. And I think it's the attitude that we have at grass that impacts all the way up. It's into like local authorities. Like local authorities aren't maintaining football pitches. Aren't picking up dog shit that's when a does the toilet in a pitch, and it's making it all unappealing.
And like you were saying, every football pitch that there is, like, it's either locked, they've taken the nets away, or you need to pay for it.
The best example of that would be the shoot, or whatever they call that, the shoot soccer, whatever it's named. Aye, you've got to pay to get in, and they've all these big AstroTurf pitches with a huge metal fence round about them. It's under lock and chain. You've got to pay to get in. See if they just, I mean, I know it's a business, and a business has to turn a profit, and that's fine. But they could just leave them open at the weekend to let folk come in and do something. Because if you've got an incentive to go and play football, maybe you don't want to spend the weekend but you're not on coke or
Exactly.
Saturday smoking weed. Or
And then
drink.
you've got something to exercise for as well, which is another impact.
Spend time with your pals. You've got something to look forward to. You can play the game. There's so many things. I get that it's a business and they've got to make money. Fair enough, but there's got to be a way around that.
There's plenty of schools as well that have big AstroTurf pitches, and they're all locked. And if you get in, they have security guards at the weekend that will come and kick you out.
Cause it's funny enough you say that, because like, I was brought up like the top end of Drossen, so like there was like an Astro pitch about 10 minutes away from me, and one of the boys that I remember playing down there was a boy Billy Gilmore, who now plays for Chelsea. He was having to like climb the fence to like get in to play football, and you're like, how many young folk out there couldn't climb that fence that maybe only getting the same chance, because you had that AstroTurf pitch, which was pretty good actually. The Stanley AstroTurf was great, but then there was like a park one, like kind of, I don't know, what, 100 metre along to the side, and it was always overgrown, and it's grass, and
Here's two of them round about Lochside area where I grew up. There's all these wee back alleys with the grass pitches in them, and they were all horrible.
There's one in Craigie, and the football pitch is the football pitch is located on a hill.
It's
like what's even the point?
I think maybe that's why I've got such a negative attitude towards our football team now. Because really, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a negative attitude towards Scotland as a country in general. It's kind of shite. And I think people want to travel and come here and see it because it looks nice on the telly, because it's all rolling hills and
it's a postcard. Exactly.
Mountains and shit. Then you get here, it's a fucking shithole. Now, I'm not a worldly man, but I've travelled a fair bit, and virtually everywhere I've ever been is better than here. With the sole exceptions of England and America. I hated them both.
I think in France, a lot of things here are neglected.
Nobody cares. We're a jaded people. Nobody cares about anything.
And I think,
and that does circle back to the team.
There's a trickle-down effect. We don't have a booming film industry, for example, in Scotland. We don't have a great football system. Our national team sucks. Our rugby national team sucks. We have Andy Murray on a pedestal because he's sort of good at the sport that he's in. But 9 times out of 10, it's a sport nobody gives a fuck about. Folk only watch Wimbledon if he's playing.
It's funny enough you actually mention Andy Murray, because his mum, Judy Murray, she started like the Judy Murray Foundation, and she does a lot of amazing work. And where I stay in Dawson, Reed's Saltcoats right next to us, that had it was like a gravel court, and it was like the only tennis court like anywhere near where we stayed. So me and my pals, we used to go down in the summer to play a game of tennis, and the courts were horrendous. And it physically took Judy Murray to come down because she was teaching like a tennis seminar, and she had to say to the council, like, look, this tennis court is atrocious, get it fixed. And after she said that, we get this new kind of clay court. And it was like that tennis court's been horrendous for 10 years, and it took a public figure to chin you on it before he's actually.
But it shouldn't need to come to that.
Exactly.
You want to know
that's what you're paying your taxes and everything for.
You want to hear something really horrible that's going to accentuate that point a bit more? Now, I'll not name the party because we don't want to be the politics show, because everybody's doing that. But I used to be actively involved in politics, right? I was a member of a political party, and I was invited to go and sit on the local council meetings, and so I went. And the party didn't tell the council that I was coming, but I got there and I said, I'm with this party, I'm allowed to come in and sit and just observe. And they said, that's fine. I come in and I sat in on a council meeting, and they had the heads of the polis there. They had the elected councillors, and then me, we're all sitting around about this table. But I wasn't actively partaking in the discussion, I was just like an observer. And they said they brought up money. And I remember how it was worded exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. But one of the women said to the wee guy that was chairing the table, how our budget is looking, and the wee guy sat and he looked at her with this like coy smile. He said, "Oh, don't worry, we've got money. Money's there. We've got money." And my big takeaway for that has always been, you're sitting on a pile of money like fucking Scrooge McDuck, and everything round about you's falling to bits. Now, I always assumed that was the case, but sitting in on the meeting, and it's not just the face, it's the face he made while he said it. So, "Oh, don't worry, we've got money." Whereas the area round about the building you're sitting in is fucking crumbling about you.
I think the budget year ends in like April or something, and that's when they like fix all the roads. So like, if we don't use the budget now, we don't get it for next year. And that's just not true.
End that you lose it or something, and it's like
Aye, that's
it's
blatantly
always,
not true. Like you say, it is basically a big bank with Scrooge McDuck money in it.
That was my takeaway.
That money doesn't just disappear.
Yeah. And similarly, the things that the people were bringing up weren't important. It was things like double yellow lines for the bins and things. It wasn't, yeah, quite genuinely, that's what they were complaining about. It wasn't things like youth centres or fixing the roads or cleaning up the park or any of that nice stuff you would expect. So I have a inside scoop on that. And you don't want to be the political podcast because everybody and their mum does that, but just it's a knock-on effect. The money's there, and there's the people that own things will only spend it. And we're fit by team is pish because it. I
was just looking at the notes that I wrote about the Scotland game, and I wrote in like big bold letters. I don't know if you can see that, but I wrote Ollie McBurney get to dick. That's I sometimes write wee cliff notes so I know what to talk about, because sometimes I just go off in mad tangents and I need to like bring it back. But I just thought it was funny. I wrote Ollie McBurney get to dick.
Aye. But like if the kids did have somewhere to train and to practice with their pals and then have a weekend team, we'd have a better team.
We'd have a better everything. And again, it's going to sound like I'm just ragging on my country, but I'd never gave it much thought about how badly we are run as a people for all walks of life. Until 2018, I went to Iceland for the first time, and it's a better country than us in every measurable factor. And they've got pitches all over the city, and for like half the year, their city's under a blizzard, and they've still got big heated pitches for folk to go and play. Outdoor public pools that nobody trashes. There's no graffiti. Everybody respects everything. The air's cleaner. There's no pollution. There's no dog shit in the street. I've been 3 times now, so it's not like it was one time and everything looked great. I've been all over that city, Reykjavik, and it's better run on every level of government than what we are anywhere.
And then you look at the holy grail that is Glasgow, and it's an absolute tip.
It's Glasgow. I'm serious. It's the worst place I've ever been, with the exception of Florida. I hated Florida. And it only takes the tap tier because it was oppressively hot and there was alligators everywhere. Glasgow's false, doesn't it? And don't get me wrong, this is me. I'm not about to go on some pro-Edinburgh rant. I hate Edinburgh, I'm just not a city guy. But Edinburgh's at least sort of visually appealing on the eye if you go to the right place. They have a castle, they've got the hills in the background, the wee piping. It's at least sort of aesthetically pleasing.
It's funny you mention Iceland, actually, because they invested a lot into their sports programs, didn't they? And you're seeing it. Like you see their strongmen. Like obviously that's just a small example of something they've been great at for years. But like strongmen are like they're the highest, the high levels where you can get.
Yeah.
And then
they've always the best strongmen.
But even like the Icelandic national football team is getting better and better.
They beat England. And so that's one of the things that they did differently. Where all that money came from. See, you know the 2008 recession that fucking crippled our entire country. God love the bankers. Well, that happened in Iceland and all. Only they punished their bankers. They put them in prison. Whereas we trained us to be teachers. Because
they gave them bailouts and everything.
Because Gordon Brown happened and that was a thing. But Iceland put theirs in the jail and then opened the country up to tourism and reinvested all the money back into the municipal services. If you ever get the chance to go to Reykjavik, go. It's the best place I've ever been in my life. It's beautiful. It doesn't look on it like any other city you've ever been in. When I think cities, I think Glasgow. Loud, crammed, polluted, disgusting. Reykjavik is the opposite of that in every conceivable way. And they've rerun their societal setup the way they've rerun their Fitbit and their sports. Because their Fitbit setup is great. The hotel we stay in is across the road for the national stadium, and you can see it from our window. And this is the national country stadium where the national team play. And every single night it was opened with the floodlights on, and it was the wee kids teams that were all out playing in the national stadium, which I thought was amazing. We were like watching them for our hotel room. Wee children with the wee bibs on, getting their warm-up drills and playing for their wee club teams in the national stadium, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen here, I don't think.
It is sad, but I think Camden, they open up to Queen's Park, don't they? I think Queen's Park play there.
Because they're owned by Queen's Park.
Aye, but even at that, it's when you look at the setup here, it is sad.
Everything about our country's sad.
Aye.
And I don't know, man.
It is a big knock-on effect.
You said at the start of the show that the highest percentage of our listeners are outside of the United Kingdom. I'm terribly, terribly sorry to anybody that thinks Scotland looks amazing and you're going to come here and drink nice whiskey and run through the heathers and catch Nessie, but our country's shite. Don't come. You'll not like it. It will ruin your opinion of what you think we are. And also, the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist. So there.
Actually, there was some guy that's...
No, I know what you're going to say.
I was watching that on the news and I was how is this on the news? Look,
it was a disruption in the thermocline layer that fluctuates. There's no such thing.
It's that way as well. It's supposed to have been there about a couple of 100 years and it's no popped its head up at the surface yet.
I've got this book in here about the Loch Ness Monster. It's called A Monstrous Commotion and it's brilliant and it completely disputes every piece of evidence ever gave. And the people that invented the Loch Ness Monster in the 1920s admitted that they invented the legend to get a tourist boost to Inverness.
I was going to say that's... See, although it might not be factual, it brings a lot of money to the... It brings a lot of money to that area. Like Fortagustus and all that as well, they make a lot of money. There's a lot of people in jobs because of this myth. And it's that way as well. Like, people like to believe in mythical stuff like that. Folk are...
the people that invented the legend admitted that they made it up and that there's nothing there. So knowing that now, I can't entertain the idea of there being anything there.
Aye, but
you know what I mean?
Some folk are like, especially like kids. Like kids are more, let's go and find the Loch Ness Monster, and then if it brings jobs, it brings money into the area, then let them put their stuff on the news that will bring people in.
Don't get me wrong, I'm glad for the lovely little town at Inverness. It is a lovely stretch of country. That's the thing about Scotland. See, once you get by Perth, everything gets kind of nice again. I think everything between Perth and Dumfries is a shithole, and everything sort of above there opens up, and there's like less cities and things, and there's more air, and there's nice green hills and trees and things. It's much nicer. I used to fish up that way. It's a much nicer stretch of the country.
Aye, because my family, they live up, like my brother, he lives up in Nairn, so he lives like...
Oh, there you go. Aye, that's a good bit of the country.
He lives like 10 minutes away from Inverness, because it's even that way as well. Like, I live in Dumbarton, and I'm like 10 minutes away from Loch Lomond, but I don't go, because it's... As you said earlier, it's crowded and it's
crowded. I hate Loch Lomond.
It's
folk everywhere. Trying to catch salmon. It's everywhere.
Even the park at Balloch, it's in the summer. It's full of folk drinking, fighting, and see, because we used to go up with like her wee sister, and her wee sister was like 3 years old, and it's like we had to go up at like 11 o'clock so we could beat the rush.
Balloch looks nice enough. Like whenever you go up to the Sea Life Centre in Loch Lomond, it looks like a lovely wee town.
Aye.
Which is a shame that it's crowded. Because folk like me want to go and see the sharks.
I went to the Sea Life Centre and wasn't impressed.
I like the Sea Life Centre. It's not as good as the Deep Sea World in North Queensbury.
It's
still good.
Deep Sea World. I went with my uncle, but like the Sea Life Centre, the sharks weren't big enough.
Just a bit of North Queensbury. I like it.
North Queensbury is my favourite place in the whole country. You remember when we were 15? No, we weren't all 15 at the same time, but you remember being 15 and you had to go for secondary school work experience. Do you remember that?
Aye.
Right, I did mine in Deep Sea World. In the Main Home Academy, that's no longer a thing. It's since shut down. May it rest in peace. They wouldn't help me set it up because it was outside of the Ayrshire territory, whatever you want to call it, the municipality. So I had to phone Deep Sea World and be like, can I come work for you for 5 days for free? And they were like, turns out they do that all the time with students for Edinburgh and stuff. So I went up, I stayed up there for a week and worked in Deep Sea World for 5 days. And it's the happiest I've ever been. My life peaked at 15. I've never been that happy again.
Did you go?
I did a bit of everything. I helped feed the sharks. It was cool. I felt slightly terrifying. My opening morning duties, I had to go about with like a spray bottle, detergent or whatever, and clean the acrylic tanks. That was cool. So I just staring at all the fish while I'm doing it. That was great. I had to help clean the water, take pH tests for the tanks. So I had to get in there with the piranhas to get a pH reading on their water, which was kind of scary, but fun. It's a fun day at the office. And when they send the scuba divers down to feed the big sand tiger sharks in the main aquarium, there's a wee cunt above them in the back room. They've got like a right. So the entrance to that the tunnel tank is through the back, but the public aren't allowed to go. And above the water, there's this bridge system type thing. There's got somebody up on it holding a rope and harness that the diver is attached to as he descends down to feed these gigantic carnivorous fish. And I got to do that. I was the cunt holding the wire. At 15. So all I could think was, if one of these takes a run at this guy, it's me that's got to haul him out. And when you're above the wee bridge, the wee walkway thing you're on is like 4 feet above the surface of the water, and you're locked down, and like because there's fans and stuff, you can't really see through it, but you can just see the shadows of these gigantic fucking sharks going below you. They're like 4 feet below you, and I'm looking down like, I don't like my chances here if this guy gets snatched. I think I'm going to let you go, son, and try and just go home. You know what I mean? But it was great. That peaked at 15. I've never been happy since. I think that's why I'm so miserable, because I don't get to work there permanently.
So I think we've touched everything that we were planning on doing today. So do you think we should wrap up the sportscast now?
When I did rant about how shite Scotland is.
Aye. And how great the world is. But you never did answer. Where did you stay?
Oh, where did I stay? I thought you said, what did I do? Sorry, that's why I went about my duties. Where I stayed, my mum's pal's sister, who I had never met, put us up in their house for a week because they stayed not in North Queensferry, but in a wee other town just outside North Queensferry. I can't remember its name for the life of me.
Is it Aberdour?
It might have been Aberdour, actually. It might have been. I don't really remember.
Because that's not far from North Queensferry.
I think it might have been Aberdour, actually. Aye, I think you're right about that. So neither my mum nor me had met these people, but she was my mum's pal's sister. And then they were like, oh, can they come and stay with you to hear his work experience? So that was actually quite nice. The wee guy, the husband kept buying me takeouts because they had a chip shop up there that delivered. He was like, oh, like, I want you to be comfortable. You want a chippy? I'm like, I'll take a 12 and a poke of chips. So like, it bought me like 5. That's all I ate every night. He just kept buying takeouts. I want you to be back here. So here's a takeout. And I'm like, my man, he let me watch. He let me watch the football on his telly. It was great. Yeah. I've never been that happy again. No, even losing my virginity was better than that. I think we've just discovered the root of why I'm so unhappy all the time. And angry.
You're not close enough to North Queensferry.
I don't work with sharks for a living. It's made me
You're in that wee guy's house, being groomed with chippies.
That's how that sounds, isn't it? That's not how it is. He was a lovely man.
No, I can imagine. If you're a listener to the show, Blair's obviously very happy that he had you in his life.
Hey, did you ever hear this? Thank you for all that. Yeah. That was the happiest I've ever been, quite genuinely. I'm going to be reflecting about that all day now.
So I'll
be next year or no, that's nearly half my life ago.
I know.
Oh, fuck me.
Blair's
while Blair goes into a manic depression, thanks everyone for listening, and keep an eye out for the next episode.
And we'll keep you updated with Blair's midlife crisis. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.